Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dead Ponic, and I have a very special treat for you today. I have acquired another human being, and you guys may recognize this human being from somewhere. I present Lightning Bolt Forever.
What's up? It's good to be here. Thank you for having me back. It's good talking with you again.
And thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I know we haven't talked in a while. It's been, what, 3 years since we last did that Q&A video?
Yeah, something like that. Like 2, 3 years. I know I'd kind of been. I know we were just joking earlier. I had kind of been like living under a bit of a rock for for a bit of that time, just trying to figure things out. So appreciate you being like patient with me as we kind of led up to this next one here. But yeah, man, it's good to be back.
So for this video, we're actually going to be talking more YouTube stuff, kind of sharing our secrets and how we've gotten to where we are now. In case you guys don't know, Lightning has done like multiple series, and he's more of the guy who does the 100% playthroughs. So he like reveals all these little secrets. It's actually really cool. I actually just finished watching his Lego Star Wars series, and I've been rewatching all of his series. Some of you might actually recognize some of his footage from my Plo Koon versus Inquisitor Jarek video, and Lightning was gracious enough to let me use that. So thank you again for that. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah, all right. So let's get started. So we'll start off with the most basic question that comes up often, that and when you're doing these things is there a skill or something that you've picked up over the years that has helped you or improved your channel greatly?
It's go- it's gonna sound so weird, but probably the biggest thing has probably been editing. Since I started my second channel, the Phobos Amphitheater, I've been editing a lot more than I like ever had been back when I was doing like more, primarily gaming videos on LBF because you for a level in a video game or just at any point in the video game, you're sort of recording the whole level itself, and then you've got like your commentary over top of that, if that's your thing. And so it used to be pretty simple. I would just kind of throw the audio over the game footage and save it and just be off and running. Whereas now it's a lot more. There's a lot more nuance to it. It's there's different things now that I have to incorporate, like just it sounds like super elementary, but just like text, like balancing like music volume to voice, uh, you know, just different effects, like moving from clip to clip and different things like that, and trying to trying to keep everything like concise and moving, like moving quickly to not lose anybody that's watching. I think that's been like one of the biggest things, and that and so I would say like editing and really just thinking about like where the channels are going. I think that was one thing where, like when I started out doing Let's Play videos as a kid, I wasn't really thinking about where I wanted to take the channel. It was just more of an outlet for me to talk about like old games I love to play. So really just really like making videos with a lot more intention these days, which is kind of, I guess, less of a skill and more of a mindset shift. But those have been the two biggest things for me.
I think for me, my biggest one was definitely when I did the Dark Empire versus Count Dooku video that I did not that long ago, like maybe last year. That
Hmm.
was because my visual quality has not been very good in terms of this. When I first did the versus videos, they weren't very good. In fact, my very first versus video wasn't very good. But over time, my visual quality and my visual editing specifically has been like I've been trying to outdo myself time and time again, and I still hold myself to that. The Dark Empire Luke video is just
Hmm.
my standard, and I'm trying to improve it. And funny enough, my audio quality has gotten a lot better because I used to have like a Yeti microphone. Now I've just got this little thing right here, and it's wonderful. It doesn't capture much background noise, And I've had so much fun, and I've been doing a lot of videos that have been like outside my usual content because I was so
Mhm.
afraid of pigeonholing myself. So I decided I was gonna step out of that and try to do something different. I thought it was great. It was really helping me, and I'm on the verge of getting 250 subs, which is massive for me.
Yeah, man, that's great. I know it's cool to see. It's cool to see that like when like a channel starts like gaining a little more traction and like as resulting from just making like those small like incremental changes like you mentioned like your microphone and like in editing also and it's it's one of those things where like even again like even just the smallest thing like just makes a huge difference. Like I've even found that like in my just kind of like my own experience with both channels actually. It's really weird. I YouTube is like it's it's a game you play. It's the long game, you know. It's changing every like every month. It feels like in terms of like how to sort of reach audiences and appease the algorithm looming over everyone's heads. So it's very I don't know. It's all fascinating stuff.
So speaking of best works, I kind of already answered this question, but what would you say is your best video or your best work out of all the videos you've done so far, even
Oh
just a
man,
series?
yeah. I gosh, that's hard. That's a hard question to answer because there's a lot there's games I've done where I had like a lot of fun like playing them, but there's also games where like maybe I wasn't they were fun for like different reasons, like not from sort of like an energetic competitive or like I guess dopaminergic standpoint, but like one of the series that comes to mind like I would say the one that I'm probably most proud of in terms of like how it turned out quality wise was Blood. I think that was I feel like that one because it was also like long enough of a series to where once it was over it I felt like a good sense of like accomplishment about like the quality of the videos, the way they turned out, and how and just how much like knowledge I had gained about the game over time. So that would I think that one I'm probably like most proud of from like a technical standpoint, but I also have to go with the series uh, Grease. It was a really short one. It was a platformer. Um, I, I can't remember who it was made by, but it was a game that like dealt with a lot of themes about like loss and grief and things like that, and it was a lot heavier than the stuff I had been like playing up to that point, and sort of playing that game again and just kind of taking in like all the like the beautiful visuals and sounds and things like that. That was probably the heaviest game I've ever played on the channel, and I remember like thinking back to that series, going like, I mean, if there was a game I could experience like all over again, it probably would be that one, just to be able to see everything in it for the first time.
I
So
think
probably another one that was really great to do.
I already said this, but definitely my Dark Empire versus Count Dooku video. It's because I think the quality just it was really good. I was really like on par with my visual editing. I had a partner because I did a collab with that one. The other one that
Mm.
I'm really proud of, and I'm finally glad that I got done, was actually the original Spider-Man 2. That was oh, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that one I'm just glad that that one's done and because what I did was I didn't record it on an original Xbox. I recorded it on a 360. So I
Mm.
had to kind of work within its limitations a little bit, and I was just really proud to get that done. And also, Metal Gear Solid 3 was another great one that was really happy that I got done. And just all these other games, these series that I've done that I started way back when and I never got around to finishing. And I'm just glad I got them done. And now, granted, my commentary wasn't the greatest. The visual editing was just okay, but just getting it done was just I just wanted to get it done, and it was great. I felt really good about it.
Yeah. I
So
that's oh, what's up?
sorry, I was gonna go to the next question, but go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking it's funny like you mentioned the 360. I It reminds me of those days, like 2000, what was it, like 7 or 8 when like you remember like that time when like high definition graphics were like all the rage and
Oh,
it's like and everyone was like it was everyone was saying like, oh, it's like, you know, they've got like the 360 and the PS3 that can do like 1080p resolutions. And I just remember like how the Wii was sort of like in its own category because it could only do standard definition. It's funny to me now how like that whole sort of debate is like kind of irrelevant now with like 4K and like I think maybe are people doing 8K resolutions these days?
I don't think
I
so.
don't know.
I don't even know if it's a real thing right now, but I know that the console wars still go on because thanks to
Hmm.
the PS5, the Xbox One, and the Switch, and all this is now because of PC improvements. Everybody can do
Yeah.
crossplay is now a thing, which is like, I mean, yeah, I don't mind crossplay, but unfortunately, my computer's not strong enough to do those kind of high end games, and even just recording just recording footage with friends is difficult. But
Hmm.
I still enjoy like the classics, like I did like the remasters of the first three Modern Warfare games. I'm still working on getting the 2019 one worked in, but I haven't decided if I want to do that one. And I'm probably going to get a lot of scrutiny for doing the new Modern Warfare 3 because of how bad it
Hmm.
was. And I don't know. I'm behind in my Call of Duties, to be honest. Like I play them for fun. I don't play them for like just to like make videos. If I want to make videos on something, I will find a game that I really like. Like for example, I'm looking forward to the new Doom that's going to be coming out at some point.
Hmm.
That's going to be a great day for Doom fans. Anyway,
Yeah.
so next question that I have here is, what programs do you use to record your footage and all that, and what do you use for editing?
So for editing, I use Vegas Pro, which I don't know if I'm not sure where Vegas stands in like on the hierarchy of editing softwares. I know a lot of people use Adobe Premiere. Um, I've never used it myself, so I don't know like again like how it compares. But Vegas, like it works pretty well for like what I need. I think there are a few things. There's like a few things in the back of my mind where I'm like, oh, like I wish I could do this or that. But I mean, I really haven't had like any kind of like major issues with it. I've used it for I think better part of like 8 or 9 years now. So I mean, it's been really like helpful for me. And on the recording front, I remember I used to flip flop so much across like different like platforms like way back in the day, like starting out. But these days I use Action by Marillis, and that's good because it's real simple to. I feel like I'm doing like a product placement right now, but it's real. I mean, it's simple enough, like to use. I mean, I haven't had again. It's like one of those things where it's always been reliable for everything I've needed, and I haven't had like any kind of technical issues with it. I mean, lets me do full screen capture, like window capture, like all kinds of different stuff, which is especially now with like recording like MIDIs in like software programs and things like that. Like that's been really helpful. If I just want to focus in on a certain part of like the music staff or like something like one of the effects in the software. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, Action and Vegas Pro these days.
So I started off with a little system called MSI Afterburner as my recording software because I used to do a lot of recording on PC. But
Oh,
then I moved over. So once I got my Elgato, I started using the Elgato Game Capture software, and then I alternate because I do between PC and console, but I use OBS as well. It seems like OBS is like the rage these days for some reason. I have no idea
Yeah.
why. It's pretty reliable. It doesn't. There's no very little in terms of hiccups. As for editing software, I've stuck with Camtasia Studio 8. That has been my default for like a long
Oh
time.
wow.
It's
Yeah,
like,
that's that one. That one's been around. That one has been around a long time.
and it's funny because that one's because it's an older software. Granted, it doesn't allow for many options, but it allows me to get the stuff I need. Like, for example, it lets me move stuff around. It's great. It's great. It's a great little software. I might consider upgrading. I have no idea yet. But when I need to like import like a movie, like a full movie for to get like a specific section, the thing crashes. So
Wow.
I have to work around it. But it doesn't there's very little in terms of issues with it. The only thing is that because Camtasia has kind of cracked down on this, they stopped the where you can actually upload from the software itself.
Ah.
They stopped doing that, and also they have a thing about like, well, the new softwares, the new ones like 9 and 10, they're like what, $60, and I can pay $80 for a for like an online voucher to get like Adobe Premiere. And yeah,
Hmm.
so I might consider going to Sony. I use Sony Vegas a little bit, just a little bit. I dabbled with it. Adobe Premiere is too difficult. It's there's too many things for me. So I just decided
Oh.
kind of avoid that. I did have Corel for a little bit. I think I still have it, but I'm trying. I don't really want to do Corel because it seems so like bare bones, and they charge like what, $80, $90 for it, and especially up here in
Hmm.
Canada, it's very expensive. Like editing software in general is just very expensive because YouTube as a whole, and also just making content as a whole, has become more expensive. And the crazy part about it is that back in those days you could get like something like Adobe Premiere, like what was it, like 6 7 for like $50, and that was a steal.
Yeah. Yeah. I I know, and I remember when even I remember like when even programs like Fraps, as simple as it was like pretty popular. Like back I think it was like late 2000s, early 2010s. I remember I used that one really early on, and then it's like as you start doing more videos, you kind of want to you want to be able to do like more, you know, if it calls for like effects and stuff, like you want to have more control over like what you're making. And so I think, I think that was one of the big reasons why I like started playing around with like so many different like recording softwares because I did use OBS for a while some years ago, but it I don't know what it was. I don't know if my computer now just doesn't get along with it, but I remember, after I got like my most recent computer, I fired up OBS again and it just wouldn't it wasn't the same as like what I had before. So I don't know, it's very odd stuff with all these programs. They've all got little like bells and whistles about them, but it is interesting to see like how what kind of like everyone seems to prefer like for different reasons. But anyhow, yeah.
I use OBS on my podcast, so and it's great.
Mm.
I love it. It gets me. It's exactly what I need, and it works well with my computer. So okay, so my next question is, if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself, and what piece of advice would you give when you were like to your younger self about your YouTube channel?
Mm. I'd probably say I'd probably say don't don't worry so much about how many people will see your videos. Like don't focus so much on getting to a point where like a channel is popular. Like just focus on like making the best kind of content you can. Because in those early days, I used to think that playing like old like playing like retro games, like old games starting out, and just kind of doing that, and in the hope that that would draw a lot of people in. I think that might have been not necessarily like the wrong approach, but I think I was missing a like a key point of like, you know, like the videos that you make are like uniquely yours. Like there's no one else, you know, there's no one else like you out there. And that goes for like anybody, like, making YouTube videos for it. I mean, and it doesn't even have to be for gaming. I mean, you can kind of, it sounds kind of cheesy, but like you can sort of make it like your own kind of like art form, like depending on like how like depending on like how you like narrate, how you play the game. I mean, it's all like, complete. You can make it as original as you want to. And I would say don't don't try to copy like anyone else's like style. It's like like whatever you've got, like just roll with that, and people will, people will gravitate toward authenticity. I think that's been like a big thing like in the last few years, like with content creation online, is like authenticity is probably like I I would argue like way more valued, like even more valued these days than it used to be, which is good because it promotes originality, and like when people find that kind of niche topic or style, that they people like that. It's like they want to feel like they have something to relate to. So very, very long-winded answer to your question there, but I hope I did my best to answer there.
Well, mine's a lot shorter. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but NCIS, I would go back in time and I would go up to my younger self and smack him on the back of the head and tell him to invest in a better mic, because oh man,
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
and for,
that's yeah. Like even like even like from a practical standpoint, it's like don't you don't have to blow all your money on like nice fancy equipment right away, but just do some research out there.
I regrettably used my computer's built-in microphone, which was a big
Oh
mistake.
no.
That's why my audio quality was so bad in those early days. And then I got my Yeti and it just did wonders for me. And then I got my new one and I'm really happy with it. And I
Yeah.
even got a boom mic and a pop filter, but I prefer to kind of keep those kind of out of the way in case I really need them. But they're
Hmm.
here if I need them, if I really want to use them. And I think the other thing I would definitely do is don't worry. Yeah, like you said, don't worry about like pleasing your audience, because oh man, in those early days for me specifically, it was it was a case of the audience, my audience specifically, was basically they were like, they were saying, "Oh, make this kind of content." It's like they were kind of forcing me a little bit. And I was like, "No, I don't want to make this kind of content because it's a game I don't play, or it's a type of content I don't want to make."
Yeah.
But nowadays I'm making like content that's completely out of my like comfort zone, like interviews. And I did a review of the OG Battlefront 2 campaign. And um that's just stuff that like my friend and I, we usually get together and we kind of collaborate on that one. But and then the versus videos were definitely something I was not kind of ready for, because I had to do a lot of research. I have to get all the clips I need. I need the script. And just it can be a hassle, but it's a fun hassle at the same time.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I agree.
So this kind of goes into our next question. What would be the best piece of advice you could give to somebody who is starting a YouTube channel in this current day and age?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because like it's like we were talking earlier, like YouTube itself has just changed so much from like in the last 10, 15 years. And like there's all this like there's all these like these unspoken like rules and like playing by the algorithm and all that BS. And I think if anything, like kind of going back to like what we were just talking about, like with your last question, it's like, you know, make something make something that you want to make, but I would also add like the caveat that like do your research on like how YouTube works as a platform and like what sort of topics are like what sort of topics do you notice that are like kind of missing, where it's like you might go to search for something on the platform and be like, oh well, why hasn't anyone made like videos about this yet, or how come no one's done it this way? I think that can be like a really helpful thing to do, like even before you just start making content, to kind of figure out like what direction you want to take your channel in, what you want your videos to be about. So definitely, I think like all the minutia and stuff, like tags and like keywords, that kind of stuff can help to a point, but it also, it's like I would also say like don't lose sight of the big picture. And even if you find that you're not gaining a whole lot of traffic with like your first few videos, like that's perfectly fine. In fact, that's like pretty typical on YouTube. So I would say like, if you're starting to get discouraged because like you've posted quite a few videos and nothing's really been hitting yet, I would kind of say like keep posting more and like really and again like really do research on like how you can promote the videos, say on like other kind of social media platforms.
Yeah, I would
So
say for my biggest advice is don't get pigeonholed. Like, cause I know
yeah.
there's a few YouTubers out there who originally almost got pigeonholed, but then they switched over and they're doing a lot better. For me,
Mhm.
I'm in that weird area where I do have my gaming videos, but then I have other content that I do. Like I did like reviews of TCW and the OGBF2 and just recently. Now, I don't do these very often, but these memorial videos I do for celebrities that have passed away, is like the one I did with Gene Hackman. That one,
Mhm.
those are more of a case of I'm trying to get myself like say, okay, well, what are my thoughts? Because I heard about this and most people don't generally do memorial videos like to like pass on the news that a celebrity has passed away, but I took that up because these people were important. They were like they revolutionized the movie industry, for example, like Gene Hackman did, or Betty White, or James Earl Jones. Like it,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like there's that, and another thing I would also say is don't let your audience bully you into making content that they want. And also don't worry about like the views. Like don't go chasing views because it will come back to bite you, I would say. And trying to get monetized in this day and age is just it's difficult because of the whole copyright thing that's going on, right? Well, it used to go on, but now it's kind of um winded down, but there's still cases here and there, and
Yeah.
it's very weird.
Yeah, I, I think I like to think that they're working on it, like at wherever they operate from, like YouTube and like their copyright bots and stuff. I think they're like making improvements to it, because I do remember there have been like quite a few times in like the platform's history where, you know, I think the copyright bots got like a little too out of control and started like flagging channels that had nothing to do, that weren't even, doing anything wrong, wrong, so to speak. But yeah, I think I've noticed that too, where I think it's gotten a little bit better in recent times. Um, but yeah, I'm sure that I'm sure they're working on like features right now that like we don't even know about, and they're planning on like rolling it out, uh, you know, sometime over the next couple of years. I honestly, I'm kind of amazed that the current like channel design, like for like across the platform for like everyone's channels, has stayed in this format as long as it has. I remember they went through like a couple of different designs there back in like I think the mid 2010s, and everybody was kind of like, well, are they going to keep doing this every year? Like, when is this going to end?
Yeah, and I noticed also, like, especially after what happened with like the copyright abuse that was some people were going through and some people were victims of, especially when it came to certain YouTubers that were abusing it, like Quantum TV. I don't know who if you know who that is, but basically
Yeah,
they've cracked down on that whole thing. And also, um I think the algorithm is starting to be more like friendly, but it's very like it's very weird. And also, there was a time when uh like channels across the board would just flat out lose subscribers because YouTube
yeah,
was going through they basically purged any like bot accounts or accounts that weren't being used, and they basically just said, okay, well, we got to purge this. And basically anybody that was subscribed to somebody, people would notice that they've been losing subscribers, and then they've they don't do this as very often anymore, but they what's the word for it? It's not as noticeable, and it's not affecting everybody as it used to.
yeah.
It's a very different platform now. I'd say it's more creator friendly now, because you can almost talk about you can almost talk about anything on the platform pretty much, minus some things
Hmm.
obviously, but and you won't get scrutinized for it, or at least you won't. There's no inherent danger of being scrutinized or being, getting harassed and all that, especially in our day and age. Like, anything talking about related to politics will probably get you scrutinized in some capacity, but there are channels that talk about modern day politics, and people love it, and they love it because they tell it as it is, and I can appreciate that.
Hmm.
So, okay, another going back to more gaming centric stuff. Is there a game that you've always wanted to make a series on but never got access to it, or you just weren't able to, or you didn't feel like it at the time?
Jedi Academy when, people? No, no, it's that one aside. No, game that maybe I didn't have access. Sometimes like sometimes I think about like newer games and like whether or not it would be possible to do like some of those on like the computer I have, because like I've never had like a gaming PC. Like most every game I've played, it's also going back to why it worked to do old games way back in the day. But like most of the games I've played haven't really had like heavy system requirements or anything like that. And so I wonder, like I think about games like when Doom 2016 came out, like way back when, and then like other and like newer games like in the style of old games like Dusk or a Medieval, like those types of things. Like because some of those games I do have, like Dusk for example, like I have that. I think I have that in my Steam library, and for whatever reason, I just never got around to playing it. I think like we were talking, kind of like Jedi Academy. It was just one of those things where like because I hadn't played it like Dusk and didn't really like know anything about it, and I would still have to figure things out. The I think the when I would think about how much time it would take to get familiar with a game like that, because as far as I know, it's like a pretty big, pretty decent sized game. Like it's a lot of maps to play in it. But when I think about like the time it would take to like get familiar with like a game like that, in a way it's slightly demotivating, but or at least it used to be, but I've tried to look at it, like recently as a thing of like, oh, well, this is like a new thing to get into, and at the very least, don't play the game just to make the videos, just play the game to have fun. It's like the videos are like a byproduct of that. So yeah, couple of examples there, but that would probably be like my mindset shift behind it there.
Well, funny enough, I have an emulator for the old PS1. I still have my some of my
Oh wow.
PS1 games. I have. You can actually get the Legend of Dragoon in its original format on the PSN store, and I really that was like the game that I played religiously, and I did a couple videos on that, but I might go back and maybe redo the series. I have no idea yet, but I really wanted to get like play some of the Halo games, but I realized that to play the Halo games, you really need to know the inside out of the level because you need to know where to go, especially in the first game because it's very easy to get lost. And that was the anxiety that I had and just wandering around the level. I mean, granted, you can find some really cool things, but especially when you get to like the later levels, you really gotta be good. You gotta be almost perfect in a way. And it's funny because all these videos about Halo 2 and how and the legendary difficulty and how ungodly difficult it was, I'm not ready for that. Like I'm more of the casual gamer where I'll just play the game and make the video and like make my own commentary on it and make some jokes here and there. Like when I did Jedi Fallen Order, I made a joke about sometimes Yoda would pop up and I did my climb up your must and it's like I'm talking to Master Yoda, but I'm doing the back and forth thing, and
Hmm.
and then I would also do another joke where I would say, oh, I put two cards face down and then my turn, and then at a particular point I would just you've activated my trap card, and then just have a picture of a trap card and just have like in the nick of time or something like that. And then just
Hmm.
all those fun things, those were a lot of fun. And the Halo games were definitely the ones I wanted to do the most on. But I want to go back and play the original Spyro games because the Reignited trilogy is fine, but I want to experience like nostalgia all over again with especially with Spyro 2 and especially with Spyro 3 because
Hmm.
Spyro 3 has the egg thieves and the original sound that they make where they go yeah 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 it's like I'm gonna get him because you have to chase him
Yeah.
around. You have to chase him around. In order to get the egg, and it's like I'm gonna get him. And every time like I miss him and he stops, he does the nya 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 nya. And it's like oh this it drives me mad. But in the
Yeah.
new in the reignited trilogy, it's not as like in your face. In fact, they changed the sound effect I think. And okay,
Hmm.
and granted, like the Crash and Insane trilogy is really good too, and also what is it? Crash Team Racing. That was the new one. Or I guess you could call it the remake, but that one's really good too. But I really hope that they remake Legend of Dragoon and all these other PS1 games, especially the first Dynasty Warriors game. I'm really hoping they do that because I don't know if you know this, but the original Dynasty Warriors, the very first one, was not the hack and slash like horde style game that we know the series now. It was a fighting game, believe it or not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Interesting.
And
I did not know that.
yeah, and the funny thing is that the dub of basically the games is where there's a character called Sao Sao, but everybody says it's Cow Cow, and I'm like, no, it's not it
Mm.
because it's ancient China, but then he has a son named Cow Sao P, but everybody says Cow P, and I'm like, you guys did that
Right.
on
It's like wait a minute. That's not how that sounded originally. Yeah.
exactly. And it's funny because I also did well was it was I used when I first started I actually did like I did the instant action on OGBF2, and I was so
Mm.
scared to actually play the campaign because of one level, the Nightfall mission. Oh my
Oh my
god.
God, dude.
Oh.
It, it's right as you say, I knew exactly which one. It's the library, right, where they're tearing up the
Yep.
bookcases.
Yep.
Yeah,
I don't know how you managed to
horrible.
pull that off. I don't know how people managed to pull it off, but I that is the level that has tormented me for 15 years. I have
Yeah,
in
yeah.
all
Just spawn camping Jedi is the strat I basically used there. I
yeah,
was like, all right, now that I've beaten this level, I'm never playing it again.
exactly. And like it's the same thing with well, actually this goes into another question but later, but the other level that has tormented me for 15 years was the ending of the original Spider-Man 2 game because when
Oh,
oh god, I don't know. Have you actually ever played that game?
I haven't.
Okay, so it's so the original Spider-Man 2, not the 2021 version, not the
Hmm.
Marvel, but basically, what happens in that game is it's just like the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2 movie, except in the last level, not only do you have to fight Doc Ock, well, you're going through basically a boss rush where you fight him on the train. Instead of being on the front of the train to stop it, you basically like Spider-Man spins the webs and he like pulls the train. And it looks like he's having a hernia or something, and then he collapses. And then you have to race across the city to get to Doc Ock's hideout. Then the hideout itself, where you have to shut off all these switches to the reactor, while you've got Otto forearms chasing you, along with the fact that he has a shield that was basically protects him, and you've got the reactor itself making this expanding field, which if you bump into it, you're gonna go ragdolling, and also water, because in this game, in that game, water means game over. So
Hmm.
good luck. And it took me 15 years of my life to beat that level, and whew, it felt good. It felt good.
Hmm.
So okay, so I think I answered that next question. So
Hmm.
that question was there a series that you actually hated doing? Spider-Man 2 was definitely my
Oh,
pick.
yeah. Was there a series I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah, like I don't know if there was a game like I hated doing. I think if there was one, I would probably, you know, I will say not that I hated doing it, but I would say that one was like was definitely more difficult to do was Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. I think I had kind of I don't know. It just it took I remember like getting towards the end of that one. It felt like it was going on for so long. I think it took me like around a year to finish it because I had like these bouts of like losing motivation to record because the game and thankfully they've changed up the formula and releases since. But like you essentially play the game and then you play it all over again to get all the rest of the collectibles. And so I remember getting towards the end, and I even made it was like I think the second to last video in that series where I was basically like, yeah, this game has like burned me out. It's like it's been going on forever, and like I wouldn't blame you a bit if you were if you had checked out like 20 videos ago because I think and I mean I didn't quite phrase it like that in that particular video, but I do remember just being like completely ready to just be done with it because it was fun up until a point, and then it became well like if I'm going for 100%, this is like the completionist's curse, right? It's like if I'm going for 100%, like I have to do all the rest of this stuff in order to finish the game, and you know eventually, like I managed to complete it 100%, but I thought a little bit about it afterwards, going like, man, that was a lot. It's like it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, it's glad to be done with that one. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
can imagine, especially with the original Lego Star Wars with all of its horrors, like Mos Espa, what was it, Boonta Eve Pod Race, the
yeah,
original, the
pod race.
original, and
Yeah,
the original Gunship Cavalry. It was like, you
yeah. I've never seen a game. That's the only game I've seen where they they fixed the levels and then still added the old ones that they fixed as bonus levels. I've never heard of that, but I don't know. It seems like maybe that didn't really catch on. So, you know,
the only thing
thanks guys.
the only thing about the complete series is that technically we don't have I don't think we have Yoda's little hover chair, because in the original he actually,
Yeah.
like, if you jump he can actually fly around his little hover chair, but you
Hmm.
still have the original Yoda death sound effect. Thank goodness they kept that in. That will always be like a treasured memory for me anyway.
Had to
So
keep it for the memes.
pretty much. So was okay. The next question is, were there videos outside your normal content that you were absolutely nervous about making? I think I answered this, but I think I'll let you start.
Maybe not nervous so much as like I did think they were kind of out of left field. Like when I started posting uh, videos of like just like original MIDI music I had been working on, um, that was kind of like that was kind of it was a weird thing just to post like for me because I'm going like, well, this does. I mean, this is something completely different. This is music, and this doesn't really have anything to do with any kind of like old games I had been playing, apart from like Doom wads with original MIDI music in them. Which posting some of my own stuff is like also what like kind of part of the reason that I started my second channel was so that I could just like lean into that more and like just talk about just different stuff about music. But I would say like those videos and probably like more of like the vlog type videos where it was like not really about like kind of anything gaming, but just more about like stuff going on in everyday life. That's those types of things were like I was a little more like reluctant to post, but eventually I kind of just figured like, well, no, it's like it would be like a good change of pace from a game I would be playing at that time.
I think for me, the one that I was most nervous about was definitely doing the interview with you because outside of my friend, like I had never talked to any major YouTubers. Like I'm
I'm
kind of
flattered you think I'm major, but
a
trust me, I'm just here like in my room recording right now.
same. But definitely the interview with you was definitely one, and then the psychological profile series that I've done so far, especially with Norman Osborn, back to
Mm.
formula.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For some reason, like when I talk to friends in private, my Norman Osborn is on point for some reason. I don't know why. I do his voice a little too well, I think.
Mm.
But definitely that one. The Versus series was definitely the one that was completely out of left field. But I wanted to do Versus videos for a long time, but I didn't know like there were some characters that I wanted to use, but somebody beat me to it, and I was like, well, I can't do that because they've already done it. But I think stepping out of like into that world of versus content was definitely the one that really like kind of boosted me up and gave me the confidence I needed, especially with my friend. He did versus content for a while, and we've been doing collabs, and it's been great. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but and definitely the more the videos that are not gaming content, unless I'm doing something very specific
Mm.
or I'm doing something that's not outside my usual stuff. Like when I did I actually have a Deadpool mask, but I've kind of retired the character because I realized, well, I'm not very good at writing fourth wall breaks and making
Oh.
snappy remarks, so I just decided maybe it's time to retire the character or bring him back in some other way. Like when I did Metal Gear Solid 3, there's a bit where Naked Snake, it's very confusing. Just Kojima is just like that. But um,
Yeah.
Naked Snake, who would become Big Boss, he gets tortured, and I did a skit where like, oh, good evening, I'm Deadpool. Our main story tonight: CIA operative Naked Snake is being tortured. We now go to Ollie Williams for the torture forecast. Ollie, hey, go get it! And it was like
Yeah.
that was my favorite joke out of all those uh jokes that I've done so far. And the other one is making Quentin Beck in the Spider-Man 2 video sound like when he's laughing like Alvin and the Chipmunks. And I even said in the video I'm going to hell for this, but I decided
Oh.
you know what I it's worth it. And then I've been doing some other jokes like the Yoda thing. For some reason my Yoda is also pretty good too, and
I was gonna say when you were doing it earlier, I was like, oh, that's good. Like,
and I even
you know,
I could do a pretty good emperor. I'm afraid the Death Star will be quite operational when your friend. I just like imagine it with a mustache. It's like
I know, just like playing around with it and everything.
It's like I mean, okay, my friend does a better Palpatine in my opinion, but it's like it's funny because I didn't know that Sam Witwer actually voiced the Emperor in The Force Unleashed. He's done a lot of great work, but the characters that he's voiced are pretty good, and compared to him, his Palpatine is pretty good. You all traitors to the Empire, you
Yeah.
lieutenant. It's like it just I'm I'm starting to work on my voice acting a little bit. Like I could do a pretty good like dwarvish Scottish accent. I can't do it, Captain. I'm getting better at my like my voice range. I'm going to start working on the female side.
Mm,
Maybe
mm.
I might consider that. But like for my Batman, where it's like, where are the other drugs? It's like I no.
Right.
It's like yeah, like trying to do like a Christian Bale. It's like, and then you got like Michael Keaton. It's like what's a good line? Oh Oh, what's a good line from Keaton's Batman?
Oh man, I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time since I've seen the Michael Keaton ones.
And even my Nicholson Joker's on point too. It's like, did you ever hear the healing power of laughter?
Yeah.
It's like
It's
it's one of those things. It's a skill you pick up over time, and the impressions are more just there for laughs. But
yeah.
when people say like, oh, that's a pretty good that's a pretty good like impression. It's like, yeah, I worked really hard on that, and granted, it this still needs some work, and but compared to like the actual original voice actor, mine's just a kind of a cheap copy, and honestly,
Yeah, it's like it's it's cool because like speaking of like Sam Witwer, it's funny how like his voice and his likeness, that's like Starkiller in The Force Unleashed.
yeah,
Like the main character, and then like I remember I found out like sometime later too that he also voiced the Emperor in that game, and I'm like, oh, well, that's like a bit of irony there, like the protagonist and the main antagonist and everything. But I think one of the things I love about him the most is that he's so, because like he also voices like Darth Maul. I think yeah, like in
in
Clone
TCW
Wars series.
in the TCW, yeah,
Yeah,
and in Rebels.
that's right. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I was thinking about like that and like just how much like I love him for the fact that like you can just tell that he loves like what he does and how like has so much like love for the series, and it's cool to like see him take on all these different projects that kind of just happened as like a springboard like from the Force Unleashed, like even right up until what was the oh yeah, I think it was Solo, a
Yeah.
Star Wars story where like Darth Maul made a cameo, and I'm like, all right, well, it's Sam Witwer like getting in there and doing the
Well,
cameo and everything.
well,
But anyhow,
well,
that's
that's
yeah.
funny. In the final season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, when they did the mocap for the fight scene with Maul and Ahsoka, it was Ray
Hmm.
Park doing the stunts, but it was Sam
Yeah,
Witwer doing the voice. So you got
yeah,
two of the best like parts of Darth Maul. But funny enough, Ray Park doesn't. He only does some of the stunts for in Phantom Menace. The actual
right.
voice in Phantom Menace is provided by a different actor. I forget his name, but
Oh, Serafinowicz, Peter Serafinowicz.
I
I don't
think
know. The
so.
only reason I remember that is like he did like this funny interview where he talked about like his experience like working with like Lucasfilm and how it was just like so it was like weird and like unlike anything he had done before. But anyhow,
It was something, and I've learned a lot about like behind the scenes stuff with Star Wars because it's funny because with the Ahsoka series they brought back Hayden, and Hayden is just he's just getting better over time, and well I'm crossing my fingers here that they bring back Natalie because I really want Natalie to come back because
hmm.
like she was like one of the best parts about the original or not the original the prequel trilogy, but actually Revenge of the Sith on its 20th anniversary. It's going to be in theaters in May. So, oh boy,
Yeah, wow.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited for
That's
that.
hard to believe. That's hard to believe that movie's already 20 years old. I mean, it's like I remember. God, I remember going. I watched it when it came out. Like all that time ago. I remember going to the theater and watching it with my dad. And I think I was what was that 2005? I think I was like maybe 8. Yeah, I was like 8 years old at the time, and I remember like I turned to him and like it was like halfway through the movie when you know um the emperor's like frying himself with his own lightning there, and like just seeing the like the disfigurement like happening in real time. Because it's like I hadn't seen anything like that before, but I remember like leaning over to my dad and I'm like this is like kind of freaking me out. And I remember like I couldn't take it, and we had to leave like right after that because it was just like it was too much because like that kind of thing like maybe I mean it's been a while since I've seen those movies, but like I don't remember seeing anything like kind of that graphic in any of the other movies from like at the time like the two trilogies. So seeing that for the first time, I was going like, whoa, this is like kind of scary. And of course, like now it's like now that I'm older, of course, it's like funny looking CGI and stuff.
Yeah,
But I remember
just
I
because
remember like having that experience, and I was like, I'm not going to forget that ever.
just be glad your 8-year-old self didn't see Anakin cooking like a Texas steak, because
I know. If I wasn't ready for the one, I sure as hell wouldn't have been ready for that.
it's funny because like now that I think about it, like I guess you could say like Hayden has become, in a way, he is Anakin, but James Earl Jones is pretty much Vader. But
Yeah.
the funny thing is that Carrie Fisher and James Earl Jones had never met in any of their scenes together. That
Yeah.
was rectified because of Big Bang Theory when, Sheldon meets James Earl Jones. They go on their little misadventure. They go to Carrie Fisher's house and play Icky Nicky Nine Doors on her, and she comes out with a bat and she goes, "It's not funny anymore, James." And I'm like, then why am I laughing? It's like, yep,
Right.
yeah. And that was the moment that I realized, wow, like these Star Wars actors are like big names now, especially with like how many we've lost. And
Yeah.
that was, and I'm actually kind of worried because I'm afraid we're gonna lose somebody big. Like, I don't know about Harrison Ford, but I think like Anthony Daniels or like, I don't know, somebody like even Billy D. Williams. I'm not sure,
Mm.
honestly, but anyway, enough about talking about Star Wars lore and all that. So, okay, so final question. Uh is there a YouTuber that you look up to a lot, or and maybe wanted to collaborate with? Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Well, there's this guy named Deadponic 117. It's I would really I would really love to talk with I would really love to talk with like musicians in the Doom community, like kind of like how we're doing here,
Mhm.
where like it would be so cool just to kind of like pick their brains about like how they went about like writing their music for different wads, like what sort of like what got them into composing, like what they do like musically outside of Doom, if they do anything like like writing, performing, just different things like that. I mean, I feel like that would be so cool just to sit and talk with them and like just learn more about them and like and their work and everything. It's weird because I mean, it's pretty evident by the fact that I haven't really uploaded a whole lot on LBF in the last year or so, but it's weird. Like video games, I don't. This is gonna sound so strange, but like I don't really play video games a whole lot these days anymore. Like unless I'm playing with friends. Like I'll still play. Like I play with like you know my friends. Like we'll play like Phasmophobia now and then. Like games like like that. Like Lethal Company. We'd even like dabbled into like content warning, I think, and then I just recently installed Marvel Rivals, which I haven't even played it yet. I really don't know anything about it, but a friend from work was telling me about it, so I figured like that'd be pretty fun to like hop on every now and then and and do that for a couple hours. But yeah, I'd really love to talk with like with those musicians, and I think just kind of open up more like to doing like more collabs or just or even if it's not like just playing a game, just like sitting and like watching like a versus mode or just like co-commentating or something like that. So yeah, anything like that really.
Oh yeah, I actually that would be actually kind of interesting to see you doing commentary on like say like Command and Conquer or something like that, like those like a hyper competitive games or something like that. That would actually be pretty interesting. But for me, uh, maybe not necessarily like collaborate, but I would love to talk to somebody like like just like anybody like in the YouTube community. Like the fact that I'm like able to talk to you is it's just showing that like I'm moving up in the world a little bit. And it was just like I was not expecting you to actually answer, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to like one of my favorite YouTubers who I watch all his content on, and I'm like, oh gosh, I get to talk to him. I'm having like that I'm kind of almost starstruck in a way.
No, I appreciate that, man. I mean, but even so, like it's I'm like I'm just I'm just here, like I work, like I go to work, I still gotta pay my rent and everything. It's like yeah, I'm just me.
Yeah, and but it was
But I appreciate that though.
and it's like I would absolutely love to talk to one of the versus YouTubers because that would be very interesting for me, and maybe just maybe I could see if I can get you in on my podcast and see if like if like maybe I could get you in like one of the story sessions where I could get you to do some voice work because I've seen your voice work. It's pretty good actually. So maybe we can
Thanks,
maybe
man.
we can work on something around that. But yeah, and I actually got my inspiration quite a bit, believe it or not, from the Rad Brad. He's like, as he says
Mm.
himself, he's the king of the walkthrough. And now, granted, I don't 100% emulate him, but it's
King of the Walkthrough. That's a heck of a title.
yeah.
Has he ever met Big Mac Davis?
Has he ever met Markiplier? I mean, Markiplier.
That's true. That's true too. I
I mean,
know.
well,
But anyway, yeah.
and well, Markiplier considers himself the king of Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, he kind of earned that. He earned that title, and
He earned that one.
it
Yeah.
was like, and then I mean, I mean, remember the first time I watched? There was somebody did like an animated series on him, like all his Five Nights at Freddy stuff, and the first one was
Hmm.
like. The first one was like, why is there a sixth night? Why? And it's like,
Yeah.
and he just like, it's really funny. Sometimes like you get some really funny moments with him, and sometimes you get unintentionally funny moments. Like the one video he did where he was talking about like he had to go to the hospital because somebody hit him in the eye with a pickle, and I'm like,
Yeah. I was like, what the hell?
I'm
It's like,
trying I'm trying my hardest not to laugh here, but I
yeah.
can't help it. It's like, oh god, and it's
It's
just
hilarious.
and it's like, yeah, and then I actually I've been working on trying to like insert some Tom and Jerry into some of my videos. Like, I don't know if you know this, but in those early days of Tom and Jerry, Tom actually looked more like a cat, and he actually sounded more like a cat. So they,
Yeah.
because of the backlash, the perceived backlash, they changed it so that it was it well one of the I think it was William Hara or Joseph Barbera who actually does the voice of Tom screams, and every time it's like there's one where like he's chasing Jerry in like a pool table, and he like um I'm gonna have to say.
Oh, I think I know which one. He's forcing the cue like down into
Yep.
the pocket. Yeah.
And then Jerry attaches like a little pointy thing, and then he like sticks and like sticks himself. And he's like, "Die!" and then he like, and then it's just great. And
Yeah.
I think for me though, I think I like Tom and Jerry quite a bit, but I will always be a Looney Tunes fan, 100%.
Mm.
I'm genuinely sad that Looney Tunes is falling out of style because of the way, um, just the way the world is right now. It's like, and then every time I watch like a Wile E. Coyote or a Roadrunner short, it's like every time he blows himself up with dynamite, I'm like, wait a minute, he set the dynamite correctly, so why is he blowing himself up unless he like is near the dynamite? But that's the genius of Looney Tunes, and
Yeah.
they have this one joke. It's an old piano tune called "All Those Enduring Young Hearts," I believe it's called, where they play it and they go do 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 do, and then the character will play the wrong note. It's usually Bugs Bunny, and they're like, "That's not right. Try it again." And he plays it again, and it's still wrong. And he goes, "No, no, no. It's like this." And then he plays it, and but it turns out the piano is rigged. So when he presses the correct note, he blows himself up.
Oh,
It's
I don't know if I've seen that one.
it's an old one. It's an old joke that's been around for a while, and there's a couple really good ones like there's another great short called Bunker Hill Bunny where it's basically it's the I think it was the Civil War, and it's just Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam just firing cannons at each other, and they do a bayonet charge, but they realize it's only one person doing the bayonet charge, and then they're like,
Oh,
and they captured the forts, and it's and then there's the one where like he throws I guess it's like a black little ball that's supposed to be a bomb, and then Bugs Bunny comes out and he like takes out a baseball bat and then he hits it, and then Yosemite Sam pulls out that glove. He goes, I got it." And then when he blows himself up, and then the flag goes up, and he says, "He got it." And I'm like, oh, I miss those days.
oh yeah.
Will always be funny to me, and I don't know why.
Hmm.
I love the old cartoons. I love the old cartoons.
Yeah. It's yeah. I hear you. I mean, it's like it just it takes you back to just like an easier time. Felt like it's like
Yeah.
it's like and like speaking just from like experience, like just not having to like just not having to like worry about anything because you're a kid and you don't really know you know you don't really know that much like in the grand scheme of things. So it's like but I definitely get that though. It's like it's like it's almost like a comfort food, but like in like TV form. It's
Yeah.
like it's the same thing with like video games.
Yeah, my very first console was actually a PS1, and I was very like, and then I got the original Xbox, then I got the Wii, and then I had a PS2, and then I played the PS3 with my friend. That's actually, I beat God of War 3 on that one, and then
Mm.
I got my 360, my very first console that was my own, that I bought off somebody, and then I got the PS4, and then I got the PS5, and then I got the Xbox One, not the Series X though, but then I got a Switch, and now, well, I've got most of the consoles. I've had them at some point. My dad used to have a Commodore Amiga, and
Oh wow.
that's how far back I go, and it's like, oh man, I'm just glad that like I still have those and funny story. I used to have that like that rotary phone like toy.
Yeah, yeah,
I used to have one of those, and it's but the actually like the connecting bit that connects the phone, it got like I guess frayed or cut or something, and my dad thought it was a funny idea. Instead of using the phone, he took out the phone part and put a banana in, and I'm like, I did because I was still a kid, I didn't quite understand, so instead I just used the banana as the phone, and it was like it was so stupid, but it was great. And
uh-huh.
yeah, and I've been doing a lot lately with like my D&D podcast, and I do a lot of like homebrew stuff. So there's a lot of like your imagination running wild, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with that, and I love D&D to death because it is that outlet for imagination. In fact, I don't know if you've ever seen like a decahedron, but this is
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It's I know like I don't have a whole lot of experience with D&D. I think I've only played it once, and it was like way back in college, but it is one of those things where like I've met like ever since I moved, I've met like quite a few people who were like really into it, and I'm like, wow, this isn't. I mean, it's like I just didn't know like how popular it was, but I mean, evidently, it's like it's a big thing, which is cool. Like I really want to like get back into it and learn more about it. So that's cool to hear that like you have a podcast like dedicated to it.
Yeah, I mostly talk about like homebrew stuff with my little world that I created with like actual like maps, not like the digital stuff. I actually draw my maps with pencils and crayons. I still use crayons. It's just like, I mean, okay, crayons are better than pencil crayons. I'm saying that right now, but there's and then we do like story sessions. We review fantasy movies. We talk about various modules and books, and we just reviewed the latest monster manual. Um, and a funny story. So in my little world, I have something called a quacking frog. It's basically, I don't know if you're familiar with Warhammer 40,000, but there's another creature called the barking toad. Well, this is the quacking toad. Instead of blowing up in a cloud of toxic fumes, it just goes quack, and then it blows up, and then it's just like it's a a weapon of a WMF, a weapon of mass frog, as they say, and
Uh,
and it's funny, and I have all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I have Steve Irwin in my world, and he runs around, just looking at the animals. He goes, "Oi, look at this! Right there, there's a king cobra. I'm gonna touch it." It's like, and it's really funny, and um, yeah, and then I do that once a week, and my co-host is great. I would actually love to get you on the show at some point, maybe like just like for a story session or two, and just kind get you kind of reintroduced to the world. It
yeah,
is it is kind of complicated, but I'll talk to my co-host and see what we can work out. Anyway,
yeah. It's I'll definitely have to I'll definitely have to brush up on my research ahead of time.
yeah, there's not much you need to worry about. Like you can get most of the books digitally. I would definitely say nothing beats the physical thing. And
Hmm.
also like make sure like you get a good DM who understands like your players, and and if you run into like what they refer to as a rules lawyer who like is always like, "Oh, this is not what the rules say," or "This is not how that works," that kind of thing, kind of just be wary. And then you have all the stereotypes related to like any kind of like group game. One funny thing is that in the older editions of D&D, um the nerd, when you had like the jock and the nerd playing D&D, the roles were reversed when they came to their characters. That was one of the big stereotypes at the time, where the jock would play the nerd, they would play the wizard or the sorcerer, and then the nerd would usually play like the fighter, the barbarian, or even the monk, because um yeah, and just all this, it's a great time to be a D&D player right now. Although granted, there have been issues across the board at some points, because we've had OGL problems, which is open game license problems. We've had
Oh,
somebody try at a game convention tried to steal like a whole like cart full of like trading cards, and they almost got away.
mm.
They almost got away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling kids. References, I love it. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, okay. I think we've talked about that long enough. So um, we're actually gonna end it there, guys. But thank you guys so much for listening and listening to us just rant about our all our stuff. And thank
all the stuff.
all the stuff, yeah. And thank you once again, Lightning, for taking time to agree to this, because it was a I was very patient. I did want to make sure like it didn't interfere with your job kind of thing, because sometimes it happens where like, oh, like I was afraid that like when I called you, like um you were gonna be late or you weren't gonna pick up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm worried because I usually try to be punctual, but I'm just glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, and again, like, thank you for being patient with me. I know this second this second round two was a long time coming, so yeah, I'm glad we've, like, gotten the chance to talk again today. And again, like, just thank you for having me. And it's been fun talking with you about all this stuff. So yeah, definitely look forward to talking more.
All right, guys. So we'll end it there, and we'll see you guys next time. Maybe in another 3 years, we'll come back and do another one of these.
Sometime, yeah, if we're lucky.